Welcome to the Friday Habit with Mark Labriola and Benjamin Manley. The Friday Habit is for small business owners, freelancers, and creatives who are ready to take their business to the next level. Join us as we discover how to apply the strategies we learn to grow our businesses, make more money, and live every day like it's Friday. All right, and welcome back to another Friday Habit. Mark Labriola, the second here with my good buddy, Ben. How's it going, Ben?
Hey, it's going good. It's going good. I feel like, if we were doing video intros, we should be pointing at ourselves when our names are said in the intro, or at each other.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah. Maybe we start doing that going forward. I'm trying to get these episodes on YouTube as well. So
Yeah.
Well, hey, I'm excited because we have an awesome guest today. We have the author of 100 Proven Ways to Acquire and Keep Clients for Life. I know that everyone listening is just excited about this because I know I am. I want to know 100 ways that I can acquire new clients and then keep those for life. So today we have Richard Weylman on the podcast. Richard, welcome to the Friday Habit.
Well, thank you, Mark. And Ben, I appreciate the invitation. I'm excited to be with you.
Yeah. Well, listen, I'd love to hear a little bit about your story. You've been speaking for decades and you're like a Hall of Famer in the speaking world and customer experience world. So I would love to hear a little bit about your story of how you got into that industry and just a little bit of validating who you are and the knowledge that you're going to share with us today.
Well, thanks for that, and I'll be very brief here. I was an orphan. My mother died when I was 5. My dad died when I was 6, and so I was in foster care. I lived in 19 foster homes, went to 11 different schools. So it was fabulous training because my first sales job was selling cookware door to door, and the guy said, "Now look, the disadvantage of this job is you're going to spend a lot of time in strangers' houses." I'm like, what's the big deal? I've been living with him for 19 years.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah. I didn't understand why this was supposed to be a problem. That's how naive I was. But in any case, so that's where I started. And then, so I did well. So cookware, encyclopedia, cemetery plots, family Bibles, all kinds of things. And then got in the industrial laundry business as a salesperson. And then a auto dealer who was a client of mine said, "I'm going to get Porsche Audi as a franchise. I want you to run it." I said, "I don't know anything about selling cars." She said, "No, but you have this ability to see things from the consumer's point of view and build a relationship." And I'm like, "I do?" And she said, "Well, yeah." So I'm like, okay. So long story short, I went to work there. We, from the day we were open, we were number one in worldwide distributors for 22 straight months in a little town in upstate New York. And then Rolls-Royce recruited me to take over a service stop in Palmyra, New York, a little town, 1,800 people. And the owner there was, his name was Howard Van Bortle, a wonderful guy. He's passed away now, but we had Chevy, Olds, Chrysler, Plymouth, Winnebago, Vespa mopeds, and Rolls-Royce. And so we built it into the third largest Rolls-Royce dealership network in the United States in 5 years and sold cars all over to stars, all kinds of people, by marketing and building relationships. This is long before the internet, of course.
Oh, yeah. My father-in-law, he worked for BMW. And he was just a rock star. It's funny because he came to America from Iran back in the 70s, and he ended up staying here and didn't speak English that well, hardly had any money to his name, but he just got into, the people business and selling and made a fantastic career. He won like a few Super Bowl rings of selling BMWs. They sent him to Germany, a few times to test drive new cars. And he's just a great testament of somebody who it's like, listen, if you can just connect with people and see how you can provide value back to them through your product or service, you're going to do well in the business that you're in.
That's exactly right, Mark. God bless your brother or your father. That was fabulous that he did that. And, and it can be in any business. It doesn't have to be in the car business. It's the ability to connect with people. And then I went on from there, and I was head of sales and marketing for the Robb Report, the affluent lifestyle magazine, from the inception. I mean, we were basically a startup until we had our record liquidity event. Then I was done. I was like, I'm done. But then people get to call me and say, "Well, dude, how did you take 600 people and turn it into 55,000 subscribers with a fax machine?" And I'm like, okay. So they asked me to come and speak at a conference. Anyway, long story short, I spoke at a conference, about 2,000 people. It wasn't my plan. They just wanted me to come and speak. And I had 22 CEOs at the end run up and say, we really aren't sure how to do what you talked about, what you're talking about. We need your help. So that began the journey. And so I speak about how to build and elevate client and prospect relationships so that they become customers for life. And my first book, Opening Closed Doors, was a bestseller. The one that was out before the current one, The Power of Why. That's in 7 languages. And this one, which we just launched, but it is number 1 on Amazon. It's only been out a couple of weeks. It's number 1 in consumer behavior and marketing. So I'll just summarize this by saying this. I'm just grateful for all the people I've had the privilege to consult with and coach and counsel. And I've done over 4,000 keynotes all over the world. I have clients from India to every place you can probably name, Cyprus, et cetera, all over the world. So it's just a blessing to be with you guys today. And I'm just grateful we had this opportunity. Thank you.
Yeah. I love the fact that, a lot of times people learn and then they teach. And I feel like there's a hole in that process because a lot of times you can learn a lot about certain topics or things,
right,
and you can teach them. But the problem is that there's certain aspects and there's certain things about doing the thing that you're teaching that allows you to be really proficient, know the ins and outs, and know where things can go wrong and, how to adjust and fix, just by doing those things. And so I love the process of like you learn and then you did for many years, became an expert at it. And then you started teaching and coaching and giving advice to people. And so I'm just glad that we get to have this conversation. And I like too, you started doing door to door because I remember back in the 80s, my dad was selling Amway and we would go and sell soap and other things like that for him door to door. And then the 90s, I was doing door to door ADT security sales.
Yeah.
And it teaches you a lot of resilience. It teaches you hard work and work ethic if you're going to try to make a buck, because it's typically commission based, commission only based.
Right.
And then the other thing it teaches you is appreciation, because when you're out there and you're knocking on doors and you're doing it's a pretty sucky job. You're getting a lot of no's and you're getting turned away a lot. And so it gives you perspective in other areas of your life so that when things are actually decent and good, you can look back and be like, well, at least I'm not knocking on doors, walking through neighborhoods.
Yeah, exactly right. That's you've had the same experience. And it's a wonderful experience from a standpoint of helping you to understand human behavior, et cetera. And it's like when I speak, people say, well, why don't you come and give us some strategies? Okay, but what I really want to do is let's talk about the strategy. That's fine. Mm-hmm. But what I've devoted my whole speaking career to is giving people prescriptive tactics. So that audience can sit out there and know what to do. We can tell them that. But what I want to teach them is how do you actually do it? And because people can play, well, we have speakers in and, we don't get any lift. I said, well, that's because they're talking about what to do. They don't tell anybody how to do it. It's sort of important to know how to do it. I think we've all been to that rodeo. So anyhow, it's all good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Can you give us a quick overview or highlight of your first 2 books? Kind of like maybe why you wrote each one, and just a flyover. And then I definitely want to get into your most recent book and talk a little bit about some of your strategies on acquiring clients and then keeping clients happy. Because for me, I've built my business off of keeping clients happy and increasing the work that we do with them, always trying to find ways to find value, because I feel like it's easier to keep a client than to go find a new one.
Oh, absolutely. 6 to 7 times more expensive to acquire one than it is to keep one. In the general sense. So Opening Closed Doors, Keys to Reaching Hard to Reach People was my first book. And that really was just, I have been speaking so much and we do, I'm very blessed to have a great consulting division, and we don't just say what to do. I have a coaching team that actually step by step shows clients how to implement that which it is that we discover and recommend. So
that's great.
I had so many tips. I had file cabinets full. I said, I need to put put this in, and people would say, Richard, you need to write a book. I mean, this is just, we're writing as fast as we can. Thanks for the PowerPoints, but good God. So I thought, all right, I'll write a book. So I sat down, and it's over 300 ways to open closed doors, keys to reaching hard to reach people. I mean, I just did a brain dump. It was a 6-month labor of love, and looking at my notes, and so-and-so CEO said this, and this sales rep told me that. And I was like, good God, everybody could use that idea.
Right.
And then we're in a branding situation where we interview customers of clients, and they're saying, if people would do this, and I'm like, let's write that down, maybe everybody else. So that's how I wrote Opening Closed Doors. And then the next one, several years later, I began to realize that people were in love with their products and their processes and their platforms and their plans. But what the consumer was in love with was the outcome. And so then I wrote The Power of Why, Breaking Out in a Competitive Marketplace. It's now in 7 languages. It's been a CEO Reads bestseller for 7 or 8 years. But that's how that book came about. I just knew that people, in a branding perspective, they need to understand how to communicate from the consumer's point of view, regardless of whether you're B2B, B2C. I mean, all this crap you hear, well, I'm B2B and I'm B2C and BD. Stop. You're selling to people. Snap out of it here. We're selling to people. Okay,
that's
so,
true.
Let's not get ourselves locked into a silo here. Let's say if I can connect with whomever, I might be able to do some business. So that began. And then this book, I didn't want to write, a man of faith. And I'm like, I'm not writing another book. I know what this is going to be. It's 6 months of, oh, my God. And then, but I start waking up in the night, and finally my bride said, honey, you can't get up at 2 o'clock every morning and make notes. You probably ought to write it. And but I do normally need a title. And I couldn't come up with a title. I like to write you a title because that's the promise, right?
Right.
This is what to get. So this one I couldn't. And finally I said, okay, I'm going to sit down and write. But if it doesn't come right out, I'm not writing this book. So I sat down, and it was like a flood. I mean, I just wrote nonstop for weeks, except when I was on the road speaking or we're doing consulting. And when I was all done, I'm in my home in Hawaii today. I have another home in Florida, which is where I am most of
Hey, Ben's going to move out to Hawaii soon.
Come on down, brother.
Yeah.
I'd be glad to have you. I'm in Honolulu.
What island are you on?
Oahu.
Yeah.
Oahu.
Okay. That's where Ben's going.
Yeah, come on down.
We're heading over there.
You'll
Cool.
enjoy it. So my main home is in Sarasota, Florida, and that's where I travel out of for speaking and all that. But
All right, love Sarasota. I got family in Bradenton. I'll be there in a few months.
Cool, dude. All right, we got to do cell phones here, and rock and roll. Throw back some beverages if you're into that.
Yeah, my father owns a restaurant on Anna Maria Island called Harry's Bar and Grill. They got live music and whatnot. So if you're ever up that way, pop over to.
I've made notes. These are free drinks. I've got it. All right.
That's right. I got you some free drinks. Just say you know the owner.
I'm just going to walk in and lay down who I know, and he's going to say, "Oh my God, thanks for coming."
Yeah, it's like Mark Labriola. My dad and I have the same name, so just be like, "Yeah, I know Mark Labriola." Like, okay.
Oh, you do. Right this way, please. Yeah,
Exactly.
Anyhow, so I have a home in here, Sarasota, so that's where I travel out of. But it's been a real blessing, and I think that I sat down and wrote the book, and when I was done. After weeks and weeks, I came out of the office, and I was here in Hawaii, actually, my office here, and my wife looked at me and she said, "Are you done?" I said, "Yeah, I'm done." She said, "How many are there?" And I said, "I don't know. I just wrote until I was done." And she looked at me, she said, "Okay, can I go? I'd like to count them." And I said, "Well, sure." So she was 10 minutes, and she came out, and she was crying. She said, "I counted them twice. There's exactly 100.
What? That's crazy.
And then it was like, "So what are we going to name it?" She said, "Well, it's 100 proven ways that you've written down." And that's how we got the title.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Nice.
I love that.
That's so cool.
That is great.
And every one of them is, here's what to do, here's how to do it. And then I give them a story or background from our consulting work about how this really had an effect on an individual. And people that are, I'm getting emails. I got over 200 emails this week alone.
Wow.
I did a webinar for a good friend, Bob Berg. 650 people all over the world signed up. It was just wild. Because, who doesn't want to keep clients for life? Please raise your hand.
Yeah, right. For sure.
what part of this is confusing? Anyhow.
Well, look at Ben and I was a client of Ben's, 10 years ago, and here we are, best friends now, 10 years later.
Yeah.
Well, you know what they say, friend raising precedes fundraising, gentlemen. Don't forget that.
Nice.
Relationships drive revenue. All the rest of it is just pure conversation.
Yeah, that's so awesome. True. So I'd love to hear a little bit about these 100 proven ways. You clearly aren't just talking. You've proven ways. And then the other thing I wanted to chat a little bit about, because in the book you referenced that people are going through a great reevaluation. And so what does that mean for businesses and professionals?
Okay, so let's begin there. May we do that, Mark? With your
yeah.
Okay, so what's really going on? And the pandemic really brought this to the fore. I mean, it's always been going on, but after the great pandemic, we'll call it that, and then the great resignation, what we're now in is the great reevaluation. Everybody you talk to, I mean, I would suggest, and we'll digress here, but every single one of us, am I with the right doctor? Am I with the right dentist? Have I got the right financial advisor? Great real estate? Am I living in the right neighborhood? Maybe not. Maybe I'll move to Hawaii, says Ben. Okay, so we're all going to this great reevaluation. Are we on the right path? Are we with the right people? Are we doing the right thing? Are we with the right company, et cetera? And what people want to believe in their hearts that they're with the right provider for the right reasons. And they're not treated as an account or a transaction, but they're treated as people. And in the end, it is people with whom we do business. So because of this great reevaluation, there's a lot of business on the move. Now, when I wrote the book, and of course, we did a lot of partnering with firms, and of course, as a research-based consulting firm, we do a tremendous amount of interviewing of people of all different levels of income and genres and anything you want to say, occupations, et cetera. And with over 6,000 people, what we found out pretty quickly is that people are moving because they feel taken for granted. They feel like nobody cares about them. And people are desperate for four things. Competency is a given. I mean, if you came to me and said, if Ben said to me, hey, Richard, I can help you remodel your guest house. Okay, well, if he's got a card that says remodeler, I'll go with the concept. He must have some competency. But how am I going to end up doing business? Well, number one, I want to know, is he thoughtful enough to find out what I really want? Number two, does he care enough to take the time to really consider my budget, my thought, my process, and how I make decisions? Number three, is he kind enough to be kind and not be pushy and not be overconfident, but at the same time connect with me at a deep emotional level? And then last but not least, is he empathetic to my situation? So what people are looking for is thoughtfulness, kindness, caring, and empathy. And if you demonstrate that, no amount of
Richard, are you? Sounds too good to be true, because I feel like for the past 20 years we've been told to like hard close and figure out how we can get behind the psychology of people and manipulate them into getting to a yes and all these things. And I'm connecting with what you're saying here, because I felt like there has to be a better way. And to me, it sounds like you're offering me a different way than understanding the psychology of someone in order to manipulate them to say yes.
Right. What you want to do is communicate from their perspective. And people ask me all the time, how do I see it? And that's my gift. I mean, I don't know how I can explain it. People ask me all the time, how have you built this huge body of work? It's because I'll talk to somebody, let's say the guy and a gal in a stucco house, and they'll say, if people could do this, this would help. And then it's just, I call it the God-given ability to take that thought, that desired action, and turn it into a prescriptive tactic that anybody can use. So I'll give you one quick example. May I do that?
Please, we got the time.
Yeah. Okay. Well, people often ask questions like, so how much money are you going to invest in a house? Or they'll say, if you don't mind me asking, how much money are you going to be investing? Or they'll say, if you don't mind me asking, how many times you've been married? If you don't mind me asking, why are you selling your house? As soon as you say, if you don't mind me asking, what is first reaction? People are like, oh my God, what's going on now?
I think I'm going to mind.
Yeah. So what you do, and it's occurred to me in the middle of the night here, I sat up in the middle of the night and screamed. It's the predicate. Now, my dog Rolex, he usually joins me on podcast. He's outside having fun today in the sun. But Rolex woke up and he thought I guess he thought I said predators because he starts barking. I'm like, calm down, boy. My wife woke up. She said, what is it? What is it? Is it a predicate? I said, no, it's the predicate. She said, the what? I said, the predicate. It's in the wrong place. She said, honey, you really got to write this book. You've got to write this book. But that was what I was dealing with. I was trying to figure out, how can I teach people to demonstrate empathy instead of saying I'm empathetic? And it dawned on me, it's the predicate. It's in the wrong place. Now, proper English, if you don't mind me asking, and Ben, why are you moving to Hawaii? Well, he might say, I do mind you asking. It just builds a defensive energy. Mm-hmm. So how do you show empathy? Stephen Covey, I'm going to give you a twisted quote here, so to speak. It's not perfect. But he basically said, when you demonstrate deep empathy, defensiveness goes down and openness to creative solutions occur. All right. So but that sounds great, but how do you do it? I'm very empathetic. Well, yeah, sure. I'm happy for you, big boy. What I would rather do is demonstrate. And it hit me, it's the predicate. So let me give you an example. I could say, if you don't mind me asking, Ben, why are you moving to Hawaii? And he may not want to reveal that. It may be something in his family or whatever. But if I said, Ben, why are you moving to Hawaii, if you don't mind me asking? Put the predicate on the back. Uh-huh. How much money do you want to invest in a new house, Mark, if you don't mind me asking? How long do you want to keep this lease going for, if you don't mind me asking? How many times have you been married, if you don't mind me asking? How much money are you going to put into this stock, if you don't mind me asking? Now, I'm just going to give you an illustrative example. Barbara Corcoran, you probably know who she is, for Shark Tank, right? All right, Keller Williams. She's got a group of what she calls her top 100. There's a team that she has that was 97. And long story short, so I coached them for Keller Williams and her. Anyway, they finished fifth in a year, which is like good. So we went from 97th to fifth. Now the question is what? One of the things I taught him is instead of saying, if you don't mind me asking, who's your realtor at an open house? If you don't mind me asking, how much you're going to spend on a house? If you don't mind me asking, do you think this house is in your budget? Very aggressive. On the other hand, by flipping it around and said, who's your realtor, if you don't mind me asking? And you know what people go, well, you know what? I don't have a realtor. But you put the predicate on the front, their defense. So anyway, I focus group this, and people, 87% of the audience, I didn't even get the sentence out. I'd say, if you don't mind me asking, rude. I was like, folks, I have to finish the sentence. It's rude. I'm like, we have to finish the sentence, please. So, okay, everybody understand? Great. If you don't mind me, they'd hit rude. Okay. All right. So then I said, okay, now I'm going to ask it a different way, and you tell me how this feels. Is it rude or not? And I'd say, how much money are you willing to invest, if you don't mind me asking? And they'd go, gracious, empathetic, gracious, empathetic. 93% of 100 people in a focus group. Well, that's somewhat helpful to know.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's a really practical tip. Why do you think that is? I'm really curious. I mean, you've kind of studied it, but what's the psychology behind it, do you think? Like, why does it make a difference?
I think we've lost our privacy. Let's tell the truth, and all the gurus that are telling you, protect your privacy. Yeah, snap out of it there, big boy.
It's gone. You get free email. Get over it.
Yeah, everything is out there, okay? But people are protective of that which it is they're emotional about, and almost everything they do is emotional engagement. So the reason, Ben, that people tend to be somewhat defensive when the predicate's on the front, like proper English, is that they immediately, their guard is up. Like, what's he going to ask me? Or what's he going to say to me? Is that going to invade my privacy? I don't want to talk about this.
Right.
And it may be a nothing question, in other words, in terms of that which it is you're asking. But from their perspective, the fact that you put, if you don't mind me asking on the front, it doesn't matter what the question is. I don't want to answer it.
Right.
Because you're positioning, hear this word now, positioning this as something I should perhaps be careful revealing.
Right.
That's really important. So let me say it this way. When you elevate the experience, I call it the 4 E's, and I talk about it a lot in the book, and I got a CEO sent me an email this morning. Unbelievable. I never understood the elevated experience and what it does. Well, when you elevate the experience, you create emotional engagement. The 4 E's. Elevated experience equals what? Emotional engagement. I don't think anybody listening to this podcast that are part of your constituents or anybody would say that most decisions are not emotional. I think we'd all say there's a certain component of emotion regarding to the situation and whether I'm going to stay with you or switch providers. So when you elevate the experience, you create emotional engagement. And when you do that, well, that's a game changer. And I can give you so many. Minnesota Vikings, when they built their new stadium, Kevin Warren had become, and he's now president of the Chicago Bears, but he was a CEO at the time. He said, Richard, I'd like you to come in and meet with the entire staff, talk about elevating the experience for our fans. So I walked through and said, okay, well, we're going to start with 2,000 more TVs in the stadium. 2,000 more. So, yep, got to be able to see everything. Need to have an app to order the food. You got to tell the security guards to stop pointing. Men's room's this way, ladies' room's that way. Put your hand out this way and that way. Yeah. And I said, stop calling it security, call it must pass through here to become a verified Vikings fan, and give the kids a sticker so they don't scream. And then those suites you're selling for a fortune, put in baskets of cords for every device known to man so people can charge their devices, and widen the premier parking spots you're charging a fortune for and can't sell, so that people can get in and out of their Lamborghinis without knocking the doors down. Everybody clear on this? Anyway, they went from 17th in NFL revenue to 7th in 1 year with a losing team.
Wow. That's so interesting.
I'll give you one more. Freddie Steakburger and Custard. They read my previous book, The Power of Why. And the CEO, Scott Redler, read it, and he reached out to me and he said, we'd like to make sure we're doing things correctly for branding and positioning. So I went out to Wichita. I audited 5 of their stores with no notice. I just went in and said, hi, nice to see you. Is the table clean? No, is it? Here. I talked to the manager. How do you like working here? Well, let me tell you what I don't. Okay, good. So it worked out great. And then I met with the board, and so they had a thing called Freddie's Way. So we tuned it up because they have great steak burgers and great custard. And they delivered it in a fun environment. But what I suggested, well, that's really good, but why don't we serve it in a fun environment, but we have great steak burger and custard delivered with gracious hospitality in a fun environment. Anyway, they just won the National Restaurant Award for Best Fast Casual in the country. We beat everybody. Steak Burger, who was the other one? Smash Burger and Culver's. They beat them all.
Yeah. Wow. Freddy's. They got those shoelace fries. Love me some Freddy's.
But if you think about it, gracious hospitality. And so what happens is when a company, you got a lot of entrepreneurs, I'm sure on this podcast, executives, others, what you need to have is a vision statement, not a paragraph. I get them all the time. Yeah, here's our vision. I got a company we're going to go through a process with now. I said, send me your vision for the customer experience. It's 3 paragraphs. I'm like, number one, it's nauseating, but worse than that, how do you implement it? I said, it needs to be one thing, one sentence.
Right.
I said, when I talk to Jeff Bezos, everybody raves about that picture of him sitting there at the old-time computer, building out Amazon. Persistence, he's worked hard. He said, Richard, the thing they don't see is what I had on the other wall. And I had a piece of paper up there, a yellow pad that said, I'm going to build the most customer-centric company in the world. Well, it's worked out fairly well for him.
Yeah.
But that was his vision for the experience. And every entrepreneur, you need to have a vision for the experience your customers or clients are going to have with you. If you don't, everybody you hire is going to be about themselves and not about the client or the customer. Right. So what happens is you build a culture. Look at Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
Seriously.
No, it's so true. And I feel whenever you interact with somebody who offers you really good experience, one of 2 thoughts goes through my mind. Did you work at Chick-fil-A ever, or did you work at Apple? Because I feel when I worked at Apple many years ago, and they taught us about how do we get to yes, how do we surprise and delight, and it was all about the customer early on in their real retail days. And then with Chick-fil-A, it's always my pleasure. How can I help you? And I would hire anybody who's had a job at one of those places because I know that they've been trained to give that expert level of customer service.
You're exactly right, and it's really the experience we have. I mean, when they got rolling and it was not about the iPad. It was what do you want to do with an iPad, and then they showed you how you could do it. I mean, how cool was that? And then Chick-fil-A, Truett Cathy was a dear friend of mine, the founder. He's passed away a couple of years ago from skin cancer, but his son Dan runs the company now. But the important thing is this. I traveled with him a lot. We did TV. We did all kinds of crazy, television shows
Yeah.
because I was consulting and he was who he is. But he always used to tell me, he said, Richard, we got to always remind our team now, we're not in the chicken business, we're in the people business. And he said, I mean, every place we went, he would talk about it. And of course, his son Dan continues it. But when I wrote the book, this current one, 100 Proven Ways to Acquire and Keep Clients for Life, I said to Dan, I'd like to walk the line. He said, okay. I said, I want to find out why they're a Chick-fil-A. He said, well, it's not because of the chicken, I can tell you that. It's great, but that's not the reason they're here. I'm like, really? He said, nope, you'll find out. So I walked the line. 2 rows of cars lined up forever. Walked up, hi, just a quick interview with you. Why are you here at Chick-fil-A? Oh, the chicken sandwiches are amazing. Great. So that's why you're here? Well, actually, they're so kind and so nice to us here. We just always want to come back. They make us feel really good about buying a chicken sandwich. So there's your answer, boys and girls. So let's look at the real numbers. You realize Chick-fil-A closes every Sunday. That means they close 52 days a year. Here's another way for my entrepreneurs and leaders on here to look at this. That basically means they close November 10th. They reopen January 1st. How's that for a picture? Great.
Right.
But yet they produce more revenue per store than any other fast food franchise in the world, bar none. And they're not even open 24/7, nowhere near 365.
Right.
But they're crushing the competition. And why is that? Please, thank you. And as you said, Mark, my pleasure. That is where we are as a society. And that's what ignited me. I realized, how are these people getting so much market share? Yeah, the chicken's good and the stores are clean and they're very friendly, et cetera, but it's crowded. But it's please, thank you, and my pleasure. Well, if please, thank you, and my pleasure can build them into the brand they became, what do you think would happen if we were thoughtful, kind, caring, and empathetic with all the people we had, regardless of the business? That was the game.
Yeah. I really think there's going to be a revolution of change because everywhere I go, there seems to be a lack of employee training.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like restaurants are dirtier than they used to be. People are nonchalant and careless at a lot of places I used to frequent before pandemic. Since pandemic, it's like nobody cares and they're just looking for a warm body. But I know that as soon as somebody comes out, a competitor or something like that focuses on these principles, I'm going to choose to go there opposed to the brand I used to go to pre-pandemic.
Boy, that is right on the screws, brother. And I talk about that a lot in 100 Proven Ways, primarily because today, as I said earlier, most companies are in love with the product, the platform, et cetera. Let's talk about a restaurant. They're in love with the food they serve and the money they're making or whatever. All right. But the employees have no sense of what the vision is for what the experience is supposed to be. That's one. And then two, as a result of that, the owner, the manager, the leader of the organization, and this is not just chains, sometimes as individual small restaurants have that same problem. What they don't realize is the consumer is in love with the experience, and the experience they have is going to bring them back. And let's talk about restaurants. You go to a great restaurant, the food is freaking unbelievable, and the service is really good too, but it's so noisy you can't hear yourself think. So the next time Mark calls me and said, yo, bro, let's go have a beer and let's catch up, I'm going to say, yeah, and you can say, yeah, I was there the other week, and I'm telling you, it's so loud, we have to scream across the table. Yeah, okay, let's not. And we never go back.
Yeah.
Because it was a lousy experience, and it makes all the difference in the world. Now, there's a place in Sarasota, the couple comes from Rome with their entire entourage of nieces, nephews, and I don't know who they are, but it's like an army of Italian people. And they open for the season in Sarasota during the winter season. The food is unbelievable. The line is down the street. But what is it? It's always ciao, bella. They take care of you, everything. You say, well, this is, and I need extra sauce. So they don't bring you a bowl. They bring you like a bowl. I mean, you like a bowl. And then when you're done, you'd say, well, you haven't finished? We'll wrap it for you. Then we'll send you home with our sauce. So what happens? The line's down the street every day. So you're exactly right. And everybody wants to blame the employee, and some people politically want to say, well, they're not getting paid enough. That's not the problem at all.
Yeah.
The problem is leadership doesn't have a vision for what the experience is going to be. At the Ritz-Carlton, everybody gets served with gracious hospitality. And why do they do that? Because it makes a difference. And every morning at a Ritz-Carlton, they're clients of mine all over the world, Wynn Hotel, same thing. Everybody working that day comes together in the gather room, and they have a principle. They talk, today we're going to be smiling at every guest. Everybody got it? We're smiling at every guest. Great. That's our ritual for today. Tomorrow it might be, all right, today what we're going to do, we're going to be warm and friendly to every one of our guests and to each other. And everybody says, warm and friendly with each other and our guest. So what are they doing? They're constantly bringing to the forefront that which it is they want to occur in the experience of the consumer. There's a company in Florida, Monarch Direct Printing, a little company in Port Charlotte. He's built it into an empire. And, just as an example, when you pull up, you ever see it says customer parking only? You ever seen that sign?
Yeah.
What's it say underneath? All others will be
towed. Yeah.
You know what his sign says? Customer parking other. All others will soon become customers.
That's good.
Isn't that great?
That's good.
Yeah.
And then you almost think, I might want to go inside there to check this place out.
Thank you. That's exactly what he said.
They got a sense of humor.
Yeah, what's up?
Yeah.
And
so as leaders, how do we develop that vision?
Well, that's something, of course, we help companies do. But in the mainstay, let's put it this way. I think you have to ask yourself, what would help customers come back? And if you can't get maybe you're not wired that way. And it's okay. I get people say, well, I can't think like that. Okay. So is that an excuse or is that a request? If it's a request for help, then do what we do. One of the second largest bank in Israel, that's exactly what we did. They were like, well, we want to have a great experience, et cetera. I said, okay. So we couldn't quite get there. So they said, well, Richard, would you help? I said, sure. We're going to interview 100 customers and ask them, what do you think the experience ought to be here? You can ask our customers? And yeah. Good place to start. And as a result, we did, and they're up 800 million in new assets. Why? Because they're giving people a great experience.
Right.
Again, it gets down to the same thing I said at the very front. It doesn't matter what we think. The only thing that matters is what the people in a stucco house are thinking. Per se.
So do you have any thoughts on like recurring, like subscription-based businesses and how businesses that charge retainer or subscription, how do you keep those customers? Is there anything different about how you'd approach that versus a one-time buyer type experience?
Boy, what a great, God bless you for that question, Ben. I'll just say, well, it just blows my mind. I built a Rob report. We had 55,000 subscribers with over 93% retention. And people are like, how are you doing this? It's because we gave them extraordinary value. On their anniversary of their renewal is when most people get an invoice or some charge. Well, we never did that. We didn't wait to, let's say you said, I don't know, what month is this? Let's say this is April, just for a conversational thing. All right, I'm not going to wait till next April to communicate with you. What I'm going to do is, at about the 6-month mark, I'm going to say, congratulations. I hope you've enjoyed the last 6 months of the great articles we've been able to provide. We're always open for input. Please send us a fax back in the day. That's what we asked for, a fax, with ways that we can bring even more value to your subscription. And we get a flood of ideas. And guess what? 2 months before their renewal, we say, thanks so much for the ideas you share. I hope you've seen most of them. We got many more that's been sent along. And guess what? People say, oh my God, they're listening. I'm in. And then I built the Weylman Center for Excellence in Practice Management. It's an online university that I have that I built from scratch, primarily for the financial markets, because they had a lot of requests there. And they're good with money, but not so good with people sometimes. So I have 7,000 people that subscribe, and we have 97% retention. Now, why is that? Because we communicate with them throughout the year. We give them say, I know this isn't included in your subscription, but we just wanted you to see this article. Maybe we'll just communicate with them. All right, may I give you one other?
Yeah.
In Sarasota, Florida, there's a donut shop next to the police station, and the name of it is 50 Donuts. Very appropriate. And their tagline is arrestingly good donuts. Very smart. Now, these donuts are not like a donut. These are like a donut. I mean, they're massive. When you have a jelly donut, you're getting a bowl of jelly in the face. That's sort of how it works. It's a mess. All right. Now, I bought my first donut there August 4th, 2019. Now, how would I know that? Because every August 4th, I get a text from them. Congratulations, squad member. Squad member. Okay. Another year of great loyalty. I know we don't need to come and arrest you. Just use this $5 coupon on your next order. Now, guys and gals and all you listeners, this is a donut shop.
Right.
You're running an air conditioning business, and the next time I'm going to hear from you is when I call you, or you're going to send me, hi, Mr. and Mrs. Wilson, so happy we were able to help you 6 months ago with your air conditioning. If you ever need us, we are here for you. Cultivate the relate. It's like growing a garden if you're going to grow a business. And when you do it, what do? You water it, you fertilize it, you stay in touch with people. Now, this little donut shop in Sarasota, Florida, opens at 5:30 in the morning. If you're not there by 7:30, they're sold out. But the bigger point is they have 7 locations now in Florida. They're booming. And why is it? Because the donuts are good? Yes. But what they really are good at is cultivating the relationship.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. So I'm working on a subscription-based website company right now. Is why I mentioned that. I have a company that's one-time project fee, and that works great. But I'm also working on like, okay, what if it's subscription-based? You know. So one of the things that I was going to try doing, and actually I did this with Mark the other day. He's one of my first customers, which is awesome. Like you said, relationships, right? But anyway, so it's like. The idea was, okay, when a new feature comes out for this website platform, I will reach out to those customers proactively and be like, hey guys, new feature released. Here's a page on your website where I think this could make sense. I went ahead and made the update. Let me know if you need anything. Like, so basically, because I hear all the time from people that have subscriptions with other website companies, they leave those companies and come to me all the time because they're like, I have a subscription to this company, but I haven't heard from them in 2 years, and I asked them to do something and it took them 4 weeks and they were going to charge me extra for it or something silly, where it's like they literally haven't asked for anything in like, you know, so long, and they come in that first thing, they're like, okay, it's going to cost this much. I'm like, I already pay you. So anyway, that's kind of the approach I'm trying to take. Do you think what are things like that we can do? Is that along?
But be sensitive to your communication style. Personalize and humanize. You need to know the name they prefer. So when they sign up, what I do, I might say, okay, your name, let's say on your credit card, Ben, is Benjamin.
Right.
What happens is you go into the database as Benjamin, except you go by Ben, if I understood you correctly. Is that correct? Right. So what I always have in our form is, what is the preferred name that you like to use? And they put down Ben. So now when they get the update or whatever, or any communication, they say, hey, Ben, what's up? Versus Benjamin. You know, Dr. Donna Wilson probably wants to be called Doctor. Elizabeth may be her name, but she might go by Beth or Betty or Liz. I mean, I don't know, but the bottom line is you don't know either. And so T. Boone Pickens never went by T. Let's put it that way. He was a good friend. My first initial C, I get lots of, Dear C. I don't read those emails. They don't know who I am. I staff laughs out loud. Dear C, based on our conversation, they're like,
it's like, we never had a conveation.
Thank you very much. Drop us a line if you get work there, big boy. And then when you email them back, don't say feel free to reach out, or always say feel welcome. Be gracious. Feel welcome to reach out. Don't email people and say, I'm just following up. That means I got nothing more to offer, but I'm hoping you made a decision on our behalf. No, what you want to do is say, the reason I'm reaching back out to you, Ben, I've identified 2 additional steps that you can take to make this platform work for you. Let's have a quick conversation.
Right.
People want steps. Give them steps.
Yeah, that makes a lot. I love the idea of knowing people's preferred name. That's actually brilliant, because I do experience that, where if it starts with Benjamin instead of Ben, I'm like, oh, it's an email list. But if it says Ben, I'm like, oh, one of my friends wrote me something, So another thing that I've done with this company so far is I've also asked a question in the intake kind of process, which is, what's the secret to keeping you as a longtime happy customer? And that's been a really interesting question to ask people. I mean, like you said, ask your customers what they want, because I was like, I think sometimes we kind of focus on the wrong things with people, where it's like, oh, I think this person cares only about speed and like getting their updates as fast as possible. Some people don't care if it takes 2 weeks. They just don't ever think about their site, so they want someone to be proactive. Another person's like, I just don't ever want to have to jump on a video call. If you just call me on the phone and give me updates, I'll be happy. So it's like, that's what I'm trying to figure out, is how do we tailor it a little bit to each client, in that experience? Because I think you're right, everybody has different needs, and it seems like trying to fit everybody in the exact same box. As much as I want to systemize it, I feel like asking at least up front, like literally, what is the secret to keeping you happy over time? And then making a note and making sure anybody that interacts with that person reads that before they talk to them.
Okay, you're absolutely spot on the screws, and I want to add 2 little points there, if I may.
Yeah, yes, please.
And the first is, you mentioned 3 things that are really important. Let's take the last one. When you said not everybody wants to do a Zoom call, great. Well, in my book, I talk about that. I got an email from a guy yesterday who, guess what? He read the book. He said, would you prefer a phone call or a Zoom? And I could click that in the invite. Fabulous. Yep. Because phone calls all we need. All right, that's 1. 2, in the larger picture, though, you have to think about how you connect with people. So you might say, what can we do to really keep you as a loyal customer? Another question to always ask, Ben, particularly, and this may not apply to your subscription business, but I found is really helpful for people, let's say, had a financial advisor and they're changing, or a realtor and they're changing, or a restaurant and they're changing. I always ask, not so much, why did you come here? I want to know, why did you leave there?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Because
that's really
what
good.
That shows me is if this is where you are, it tells me a lot about their psychology. It tells a lot about how they want to be communicated with on an ongoing basis. But it gives me great insight on how to fashion the right experience for a constituent group. And that has been marvelous. And one other thing I'll mention to you, the same thing I do with all of our subscribers on the Weylman Center, is at least once a year, we send them an email. Not one thing. What are 3 things we can do to improve your experience? And it's amazing, the feedback. And a lot of it's the same. And sometimes you get nothing. But I do wish it was a little easier to, and here it is. Well, great. One was like, I wish I could find a place where I could get my questions answered without having to look at the courses. So we put up a whole suite. Click on the question. Here's all the courses you can take to answer the question. I mean,
that's why I'm a big fan of having different modes of communication, whether that's video, audio, text. You want to give people the option, like on social media, let's put a video, but then let's also put the text above the video, because some people may want to read the text, but some people may just want to watch the 90-second video instead of reading the whole paragraph of what the information is. And so it's really about being diverse and having the right kind of content out there to reach different people at different places.
Yeah, and people will tell me you're exactly right, Mark. I have a performance tip that goes, I do about every week or 10 days, and some researchers, here's something you could do to improve your business, we'll call it that. And I've got about 48,000 people to get it, but I give them either the video, so click here to watch the 1 minute 30-second video, or read below. It's remarkable to me how many people just read below and don't watch the video. So what does that really tell us? That different people are, shall we say, interested in different ways of communication, to your point. And if you give people options, what it really says is, I am empathetic to your situation.
Wow. I feel like I could go on for like another hour. I don't want this conversation to end, but all good things must come to an end. So I get that. Hey, Ben, what are our top takeaways from this episode?
Well, one takeaway I have, I just bought this on Amazon. So I picked up the book. I'm looking forward to reading it. I really enjoyed this conversation. I wrote down a couple of things that stuck with me from what you said, Richard. So one was elevated experience equals emotional engagement. You also said know the name people prefer and use it. For potential clients, they want to know, are you thoughtful? Are you kind? Are you caring? And are you empathetic? And then 2 things we can ask our customers, not just why did you come here, but why did you leave there? And what are 3 things we can do to improve your experience?
Yes. This episode has been filled with gold. Richard, if people wanted to connect with you, maybe get consulting or whatever that looks like, where's the best place to reach you? Obviously, they can get your books where books are sold.
Oh, yeah.
So go out and buy a book.
Yeah, all of them, but they're all there. So two things I'm going to say very quickly. Number one, and whether you need consulting or speaking, write down this website, Richard, WeylMan.com. Richard, WeylMan.com. Why? Because you can go there and click on books and you can order the book. All the providers from Amazon to Barnes & Noble, they're all there. So you can just click and go. You can read a sample first chapter. It's free. But here's the key. Once you start reading the book, you're going to be going along and go, oh my God, look at this. Look at this. This is a calendar on how to cultivate clients. But how am I no. It says right in the book, go to richardweylman.com, click on tools. Every single form, every single process that I lay out, you can download it free in a Word document so you can make it your own. So that's on the website, richardweylman.com. And it's not hard to find. Click on books and it says, would you like the tools? Great. Click here. There you go. Download them all. Because I just want to help you get better and give you prescriptive tactics. If for speaking, you'll see a whole section there on speaking and topics. You can reach out. I'd be happy to have a conversation about the programming you're doing as far as consulting. You can go to our consulting page on my website, richardweylman.com. You'll see lots and lots of case studies. That's the way I like to help communicate. Say, here's what their problem was. Here's how we solved it. And that helps decision makers say, wow, I wouldn't have thought of that. Or, boy, that could really perhaps help us. So there's lots of case studies you can read, what the problem was, how we solved it. The names of the companies are listed. The CEOs, COOs, or whoever hired us are there also. Also, I just put up about, I think it's 30, but I'll say 20 videos you can go on the site, and they're all free. And they're like 2-minute segments on things you can do to elevate the experience and really reinforce your brand in the market. It's all free. Just go and enjoy it. But I'd love to speak for your conference, your association, or whatever. And I just want to say to both of you, thank you, Mark, and thank you, Ben, for reaching out, for the privilege of being with you today. It's a real blessing, and I'm just grateful for the service you're bringing to the community of people that really rely on you for input and intake and opportunity. So Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, hey, we always love to leave people with something that they can take action on starting next week. You know, here's Friday, Monday's coming. What can we do to better our businesses? So I want to ask two things of you. One is, what is your top way that you would recommend to acquire a customer? One thing.
Focus on the outcome that they are looking for. People today are in love with outcomes. They're seeking outcomes. Don't ask them, what can I do for you? They don't know. They just have a problem they're trying to solve. How can I help you? We're not sure of that either. But it's like the work I did with Lexus. When you come into a dealership, it's not, how can I help you? It's, why do you want to buy a Lexus? Well, I heard they're safe and I like the way they look, et cetera. Who do you want to buy it for? Well, I want to buy it for my daughter. She's going off to college. Well, the only thing left then is, what color do you want? So focus on the outcomes they want and ask them. Don't say, how can I help you? Engage with their story and just say, I'm here to help you get your air conditioning system up to speed. But before we get to all of that, how long have you lived here in Paducah, Kentucky? Get them to tell a little of their story. They feel like, oh my God, here's somebody that's sitting on my side of the table, finally. And they want to engage. If you're working in a retail store, they come in, yes, sir, do you like that jacket? Or, yes, ma'am, that is on sale this week. And by the way, is this an occasion you're planning for, if you don't mind me asking? And when they go, well, no, not really. We're going to be going to summer and we're going to be going away for the summer, and it's going to be really okay. So that's the engagement level. So that's how you move the business. And secondly is, remember, relationships drive revenue. So focus on building the relationships. Don't be about you. It's not about you.
Yeah.
You're there to do what? Not to sell, to serve. One more thing, may I give it to you to help capture people that are reluctant? Send them a thank you note for saying no. If somebody doesn't buy from you, thank them. I do it all the time. I had a guy the other day reached out, wanted me to do a conference in California. I can't do it. I'm already booked. So I sent him. He's like, oh, we're so disappointed. Well, I sent him a note. Disappointed we're unable to do business now and that I can serve you. I look forward to working with you in the future. Always feel welcome to reach out. He called me. He said, I can't believe you sent me a note. He said, why'd you do that? I said, well, can I tell you a story? I said, years ago, I had that epiphany. And 6 years ago, I sent a guy in St. Charles, Illinois, a thank you note for saying no. He called me to have me speak. We couldn't work it out. My schedule, his schedule, all the rest of it. All right. So I sent him a thank you note. I just spoke in January for his kickoff, 1,200 people. And he walked up on the stage as CEO and he said, now, I want to read this note before I introduce our speaker. And it said, Dear Greg, I'm disappointed, not sorry, I'm disappointed we're unable to work together now. Now, I didn't say forever, now, period. I look forward, keep them focused. I look forward to serving you, not selling you, serving you, or serving you in the future. Always feel welcome to call. He read the note. He said, he sent me this note all those years ago, and now he's going to teach you why this works. And then he introduced me.
That's awesome.
Now, what's
okay,
the
and then
point is he kept the note, and he put it under the glass on his desk.
It made a difference.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the last thing is that then the one thing to keep clients for life. If we had to say, hey, this is one thing that I would suggest you do to keep clients for life, what would that be?
Treat them as people and not as purchasers or transactions. Send special notes on special days. If they're a teacher, send them on a teacher's anniversary day. Send them you can send them an email gift card if you want to, or a greeting card. But just say congratulations on another successful year as a teacher. Just stay in touch with people, so when a window of opportunity opens, you're the first one they think about.
All right, love
That's
it.
good.
So good. You're going to want to listen to this episode a few times, so make sure you go to thefridayhabit.com to find show notes for this episode. There you can also find links to our websites and ways to get in touch. And at the bottom of the page, you can download our guide to the Friday Habit System that will show you how to set aside one full day each week dedicated to working on your business instead of always in your business.
And if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave us a review in the Apple Podcast app. And if you have any questions for us, shoot them over to hello@thefridayhabit.com.
That's right. Until next time, live every day like it's Friday.